In ages long past, it was believed that Mother Dana was indestructible and everlasting. Rena, on the other hand, was thought to be the domain of the gods, a paradise where the souls of the departed could rest forevermore. Oh, how wrong we were.
Hey, what's going on, Gaijins and Galjins? Tales of Arise, the 17th main entry title, has finally released, and just in time for the 25th anniversary of the series. I've played over 50 hours of the game, and I have a lot to say on this one, as a fan of the series who was a bit let down with Berseria. Seriously, whoever came up with a combat system where you can lose how many attacks you can do if you get stunned needs a punch in the mouth. Now, I'm not a big enough channel to receive a review copy yet. Someday. So my reviews will be after launch while we continue to grow. So if you want to help with that, which I would be ever so grateful if you did, please like, share, and slap that bell on its perk little cheeks. Now, without further ado, let's start the review. Because I did a preview of the demo and most of my pros and cons in that video carry over, I will give a quick recap, some things that are only in the full release title, and end with my thoughts in a score of some kind out of 10. And if you missed my video with demo impressions, check the link in the description or at the end of the video. Make sure you stay till the end for a few tips to ease you into the first few hours. And with all that out of the way, let's talk Tales of Arise. One fateful day, the planet Danon was invaded and conquered by the more technically advanced planet Renan, and its people were enslaved. Fast forward a few 300 years, and you play as Alphen, a Danon slave who spun the big wheel of protag backstories and got amnesia. Yep, our boy can't remember anything of his past, including who gave him that stylish headpiece he has, and why he doesn't have the ability to feel pain. Alphen is hoping for a way to liberate his people, and he gets it when he meets a runaway Ranin woman named Shion. And this is a serious Tinder match since Alphen can't feel pain, and she has a curse that causes pain to anyone she comes in contact with. Basically, Alphen is the only person who can touch her without being hurt, and he's also the only one who can wield the blazing sword that she has without being in crippling pain, because fire is indeed hot. Shion also has a bone to pick with the four lords of Renan, the leaders in charge of each region, for her own reasons, so they set off together to free the Danon people and take down their oppressors. Along the way, they will meet a colorful cast of characters, some of which will join your party, and together they just may learn that racism and oppression kinda sucks. A great cast. Everyone is interesting and fun. You care about their backstories and their future. In a world full of oppression and hatred, it's interesting to watch these characters interact with the grays of different people's viewpoints. No one is ever black and white. You see how they react either to living under oppression or being a part of the oppressors, and the repercussions of either their actions or those who have the power to change things. The voice acting is on point, and there are no overly annoying voices. The fully animated cutscenes, in-game cutscenes, and skits, a Tales series staple, really gets you invested in each character. I will say I found one character pretty obnoxious for their need to undercut everything said or done with their extreme racism. I understand racism isn't something changed overnight, but I felt that they should at least have gotten more accepting of the people that they knew were different than those who oppressed the Danons, especially after weeks traveling, eating, and fighting alongside those people. You can't put your life in their hands on a daily basis and not have at least some understanding and acceptance. I didn't end up hating the character, and they did get better later on, but they definitely got on my nerves every time they would just explode at someone who 2 minutes ago they were teaming up with to fight a giant centipede or something. Other than that, this group goes up there with some of the best JRPG parties in the genre. Some standouts being the leader of the resistance group and the character growth between Alphen and Shion. The game is gorgeous, flat out. For this new title, Bandai Namco wanted to use a more up-to-date engine, and the Unreal Engine makes the game shine. I'm playing on a base PS4 with a crappy little TV, and it still can blow me away with its visuals. The more modern designs, along with the almost watercolor cell shading, is a fantastic combination, and really sells the fantasy of this world. The character, creature, and boss designs are all imaginative and fit the Tales series well. Though someone at Bandai really hates wolves because you will fight a lot of freaking wolves. Red wolves, green wolves, big wolves, small wolves, all the damn wolves ever. The bosses are very diverse and imaginative, but regular enemies get palette swapped and call it a day. The designs of the various areas you visit is leagues ahead of previous titles, even as recent as Berseria. One issue that carries over from the demo is the pop-in that still is in the game, to the point where I've completely run into people because their model didn't appear until I was right on top of them. Also, sometimes after dialogue, you'll get caught on whoever you were talking to, and Alphen will just run in place for a second. The lips don't match the dialogue very well, and sometimes there are some typos in the captions, but you get used to it. Honestly, only minor hiccups in a visually stunning experience. Sound effects pack a punch and sell the power of what you're doing. There is a bit too much characters shouting their attacks mid-combat, but you get used to it, and a few times if you listen, it will help you distinguish what they're doing. It would have been nice to be able to lessen how much they speak, though. The music is beautiful in its own right. JRPG music tends to be extremely good compared to some other genres. However, this game just doesn't have a banger, you know? The different themes are great, but you just don't have anything memorable like a Guar Plains from Xenoblade Chronicles or Toad's theme from Chrono Trigger. Like, if you just set them aside and listen to them, they're all beautiful. There are some fight themes that truly slap, and the intros are fantastic, but there aren't any that really make you stop and get that "who farted, this music is fire" look on your face, you know? Like I said, no bad tracks, but nothing that will be played at the Olympics. Alright, tip number 1, do not fight the first big Zoogle you see. It's the Mantis from the demo, and you will be nowhere near strong enough to take him for a long time. No idea why they showed him so early in the game. Tip 2. In that same vein, make sure you save before taking on any big fights or any big enemies you don't know if you can take. Heads up, you will never know if you can take them because you can't see the enemy level until you are fighting them, and many of them you can't escape. So you can only just get killed and you don't get any items or CP back after dying because the game just spits you out in front of the boss after a loss. Tip 3. Practice with your character. Damage comes from boost strikes, and that comes from longer combos. One way to get this is to look through your arts and find ones that knock your enemies into the air. Aerial combos keep the hits coming while keeping you out of harm's way. Tip 4. Go into strategy and prioritize healing up from third place to first. Trust me, it helps. Tip 5. Don't spam attacks, both arts and boost strikes. Your arts do less damage the more you use them. Space them out with at least 4 other attacks to keep them potent. As for boosts, Try to keep them for when they will result in a broken opponent. The bar also carries over between fights, so keep that in mind. Tip 6. Be careful when selling weapons. Some later weapons require the weaker version of that weapon to be crafted. You can buy it again, but money can be a bit hard to come by since you don't make money with fights, especially with how expensive healing items are. Tip 7. Speaking of money, in order to get money you want to mine ore and fish and sell what you get. Later you can find a recipe that increases dropped ore and whatnot so that you have a better chance of getting the more expensive drops. Also, don't be afraid to sell any armor you aren't using or crafting items that you have a lot of. I tend to keep about 30 for use and sell the rest. And finally, tip 8. Pay attention to your partner's team boost attacks and their element. Some enemies are weak against or resistant to certain elements, and you can take advantage of that. For instance, if you're fighting enemies who are weak against ice attacks, consider using Mami Kisara's team boost attacks, since 2 of them are ice elements. However, almost all of Elfin's is fire, and the enemy will resist most of that damage. The more damage you can get, the better. So with all that said, what do I think? I think Tales of Arise is a fantastic game. A great, mature story filled with mostly fun and interesting characters with a combat system that's rewarding and exciting. A few minor technical issues and one character taking a bit too long to develop just wasn't enough to make me think this game is anything but extraordinary. I'm very much looking forward to my New Game Plus playthrough. So, if you fancy yourself a JRPG player, you owe it to yourself to give this game a buy. It has enough old school JRPG elements for those of us who grew up playing them, and some new quality of life things for the newer players. Many times a company can either hold too tightly to tradition or rest on their previous success, or they chase trends in a half-assed attempt to be popular. Tales of Arise threads the needle and achieves an excellent balance of old school JRPG mechanics and charm and current quality of life changes and themes. This newest title has pushed Tales of Vesperia and Xillia 2 down to my second and third favorite in the series and goes in my top 5 favorite JRPGs of all time. Bandai Namco have done right by fans in their attempt to update the series to match the times while keeping everything that made their fan base in the first place. So I'm giving this one a calling in sick on release day out of 10.
What are you staring at me for?
Your clothes are all about function over form. You should think about sprucing them up a little.
Why? What purpose would it serve?
I guess you're right.